Drug abuse costs West Virginia $430 million per year, and we have the highest drug-related death rate in the country. We'll talk about drugs in West Virginia right now on The Law Works.
From West Virginia Public Broadcasting.
Closed captioning for The Law Works is made possible by a grant from the Monongalia County Bar Association to support legal information and education for all West Virginians. The Law Works is made possible by major grants from the Office of West Virginia Attorney General Darrell McGraw and from Software Systems Incorporated, a West Virginia company established in 1975 which provides high-end support services, programming, and consulting for county government AS400 mid-range computer systems, as well as PC-based systems, and by a grant from the West Virginia Bar Foundation. The West Virginia Bar Foundation, the philanthropic organization for West Virginia's legal profession and justice system, promoting public knowledge of the law in West Virginia.
What is the state of West Virginia doing about drug abuse? My guest is Attorney Fran Hughes, West Virginia's Chief Deputy Attorney General. Fran, thank you for joining us.
And thank you for having me.
Fran, we're talking about drug abuse. You're in the Attorney General's office. I know that office has been concerned about this. What is the drug problem in West Virginia?
People are using too many drugs. We have the highest prescription drug rate in the country, 18.4 prescriptions per capita. Per person, on the average.
On the average, everybody has 18, and of course everybody doesn't have 18 prescriptions, but on the average.
But many have more. So.
Well, I have a couple of sons in their 20s and early 30s, and they don't have any, so I guess somebody gets to have 36 for each one of them just to make the average come out to be 18.
That's right. But we have the highest average prescription drug rate in the country. And we're leading the nation in pain pill overdose.
What kind of pain pills?
Lortabs, OxyContin, Oxycodone, Percocets, any kind of pain medication that has an opiate base, and narcotics.
I remember a few years ago I had some medical procedures performed, and the doctor prescribed some Percocet for me in the first day or so after the operation. And I took one or two of them and begged them to give me something else because I didn't want any more of that. It affected me so deeply. And Percocet at the time at least was considered to be a fairly low-level painkiller.
Many people start out using it legitimately. We do have a lot of injuries in West Virginia because we have industries, coal mining, timber, that lend themselves to injuries. And people are prescribed the medication legitimately, but then they don't stop. And this has become a personal crusade for General McGraw. Pain pill abuse has virtually touched every family. I think everybody in this studio knows a sister, brother, mother, father, or nephew, niece, or cousin that's addicted to pain medication.
It's that common.
It's that widespread.
Well, I know that the physicians and the hospitals report that there's an awful lot of drug abuse that they see coming into their emergency room.
Well, the Charleston Area Medical Center has reported that 20% of the people that are seen for trauma services are there because of pain pill
involvement
problems.
of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
The trauma means that your body's been bashed around
Right.
in some way. So people are
Your
having
judgment is altered. You could be overdosing, driving and be in an accident because you are taking a very powerful narcotic. So it can affect your judgment in many ways.
Even if you think not.
Yes.
I know I do.
Well, you're driving under the influence. Under the influence is just not drinking. If you are out on the road and you're doing pain medication, you shouldn't be driving.
It's a common misunderstanding about the use of drugs while you're driving. A few years ago, we talked about DWI. DWI stood for driving while intoxicated. And the common understanding of that was that you'd had too much wine or beer or whatever your drink of choice was, and you should not be operating a motor vehicle, and it was illegal, and the crime was DWI. We changed that some time back. Now it's DUI, and that stands for driving under the influence, and it's not just alcohol. It's
Well,
the influence
you
of
know
anything.
how you felt when you were taking the Percocets.
Right.
Would you have trusted your judgment to get behind the wheel of a car?
Well, you know, the danger with that is the question is not would I trust my judgment, because my judgment's impaired. I'm the last person in the world, if I'm taking something like
That's
that should
exactly
make
right.
that decision.
You can't exercise good judgment when you're under the influence of a narcotic.
Well, I know that the police agencies are just overwhelmed by this.
Well, law enforcement, they report that 90% of their caseload now is devoted to this pain pill epidemic. That's how widespread it is.
90% of, and there are,
90% of law enforcement, it's attributable to criminal activity directly or indirectly related to pain pill abuse. I mean, it devastates families. Children are abused and neglected when the parents spend all the money on pain medication, no money.
and no money leads to other things, including domestic
Robberies,
violence.
domestic violence. You do anything you can to get the money to get your pills.
We're talking about drugs in West Virginia. My guest is Attorney Fran Hughes, West Virginia's Chief Deputy Attorney General. I'm Dan Ringer, and this is The Law Works. Well, you mentioned that your office has a particular concern about this issue. What's the Attorney General's office been doing?
Well, currently we have a lawsuit against 14 pharmaceutical distributors. And what distributors are, they provide the pain pills to the pharmacy. And they're required under West Virginia law to have a program to monitor and control the amount of pain pills that they are providing. And they're to report when the usage, the frequency, or the prescription patterns change. There's a deviation in the pattern by a particular pharmacy. They're mandated to report this. This has not been done. For example, there's a pharmacy in Kermit, West Virginia, population 300. They were making $500,000 a month providing pain pills. They're 22nd in the nation in providing pain medication.
In Kermit?
In Kermit, West Virginia. And there was actually a doctor that was operating a pill mill that pled guilty that reported that he earned $20,000 a day. Why wasn't that reported to the pharmacy board? So we've sued 14 distributors, including Cardinal, which is the largest distributor, to hold them accountable for their breach of duty under West Virginia law. We need to stop these pain medications from being on the street, and we need money for treatment. It's breaking the budget of county governments trying to maintain the jails. The regional jail costs are off the charts. There's not enough treatment centers, and the neglect that it causes within families. So our goal is to get money for West Virginia so that we can treat people that are addicted to these medications.
I know the regional jails are tremendously overcrowded. The court dockets are overcrowded with these cases. And when we talk about courts, we're not just talking about prosecuting a drug dealer or a drug user. That's the criminal case, that's the tip end of it, but you've got all these other cases that follow along behind it. You've got divorce cases because one or other of the parties, if they're both not using, will at some point get fed up and say, I'm done with you, I've got to get out and save my children or create a life for myself. You've got domestic violence cases that are clogging the court system, child abuse and neglect cases that require tremendous resources. And if we talk about the regional jail costs, regional jails are regional. Sometimes attorneys will have to drive 2.5 hours each way just to see their clients. And most often these are court-appointed attorneys at both the state and the federal level. So the costs are astronomical.
Well, that's one thing that Attorney General Darryl McGraw is very proud of, because we were the first party in the nation to hold Purdue Pharma responsible for its illegal marketing practices. And we were able to build day report centers across the state. And every dollar spent for a day report center saves the county $7 in regional jail costs. And it means that you don't have to put somebody in jail, that you can actually hold them accountable under the law, but they still will be able to keep their job. They actually have treatment programs. Getting off these drugs it's a very difficult proposition. So we were able to provide money for day report centers across the state. That's a burgeoning effort to see that we have more of these types of programs. An alternative sentence to jail. We can't put all the people that are addicted to these pain pills in jail. It's not physically possible. And it would break the bank if we tried. We also were able to fund abuse treatment programs, and that is something that we are desperate for in West Virginia. So to be able to be on the forefront, we literally settled the case on the courtroom steps the morning of trial when we were picking a jury, $10 million. And so that started in 2000, and now we're on to the pill mills. We also were the first party in the country to use our consumer statute, our civil statute, our unfair and deceptive acts and practices, to go after the supplier of bath salts and the drug that's used for synthetic marijuana. And after we sued them, they agreed to enter into an order to stop doing business in West Virginia, to post on their websites the prohibitions that we had obtained by suing them as to what they were allowed to advertise and say on their website. And they had to provide us the names of all customers in West Virginia since 2008 that had purchased their product over the internet. A week after we obtained this order, federal agents from across the country raided their headquarters in Georgia. They identified it as the 5th largest supplier of chemicals in the United States for bath salts and synthetic marijuana.
That was Nutrigenetics or Nutrigenomics.
Nutrigenomics.
Out of Georgia.
Yes.
Well, you mentioned bath salts a couple of times. What's wrong with bath salts?
Well, when you tinker with them and you put these chemicals into them, it can cause a psychotic break, seizures, death. It's highly dangerous. And the same with the synthetic marijuana, people don't realize you have two opportunities to change the potency of the drug. The person that's tinkering with the chemicals has an opportunity to make it far more potent than regular marijuana. And then when the person obtains the supply, and when they spray it on the marijuana, they can spray it at a concentration that was never intended. So there are 2 points where the tinkering and using the chemical can really cause an increased potency. And we are seeing people turn violent, have psychotic breakdown that they never recover from.
From synthetic marijuana.
From synthetic marijuana.
Now, can this synthetic marijuana product be used independently of real marijuana?
No, you cannot use synthetic marijuana. One of the problems...
So you have to commit a crime, get the marijuana in the first place, to use the synthetic marijuana, which is illegal in the second place.
Well, we have a statute that at least makes it a misdemeanor to use counterfeit marijuana. But many states do not have that statute. And what happens on a federal level, they tinker with the chemical so that it falls outside the boundaries of the law. And then they move on, and then the law has to chase after them and catch up with that latest chemical composition. And so just to make it unlawful to be trafficking in any substance that, whether it's counterfeit or not, really gets to the root of the problem. And we believed law enforcement came to the Attorney General's office. We worked with the DEA, and they identified this as a problem that the federal statutes had not been able to keep up with this problem, and they asked for our help. And we were sitting around the table just brainstorming, what could we do? And we came up with the question, well, when they advertise, do they tell people that if you use a product with this chemical, that you could actually experience a psychotic break? That's important information that a consumer would need to know, or anybody that's thinking of spraying it on a product and selling it. You could be delivering death to somebody.
We're talking about drugs in West Virginia. My guest is Attorney Fran Hughes, West Virginia's Chief Deputy Attorney General. I'm Dan Ringer, and this is The Law Works. So in a sense, you got these guys for false advertising.
That's exactly what we did, and we were the first Attorney General's office in the country to use our civil law to go after these crooks. And really, when you take the profit out of it, you'll stop the crime.
I can think of a lot of adjectives that I want to use. You know, it's great that you break up a criminal enterprise or at least damage it, but the whole concept of thinking of attorneys sitting around a table saying, what can we do to get these guys, and then come up with an idea of false advertising. The word that pops to my mind is charming. I think that's terrific.
It was almost too simplistic, but it worked.
Well, let's talk a little bit about bath salts and about how horribly, horribly dangerous they are. The name bath salts sounds so relaxing. It's something you put in a hot tub and you get in it and you soak. This is not exactly the same stuff.
And that's exactly what the crooks intended. They wanted people to have this sense that bath salts, they're okay. Smell the roses, relax in your tub.
It's like calling it chocolate pudding or something.
Yes.
It just sounds good. But
that in and of itself is misleading.
But just a little use of bath salts can make a tremendous physiological change in a person's brain.
Can permanently alter your brain.
Yeah, I remember in the 60s and early 70s, we talked about people who seemed a little spacey and who couldn't think clearly as burnout cases. And some of them may have been, I don't know particularly. But with bath salts, that's really what you get. They can become permanently violent.
Hallucinations. where they become very paranoid, believing that somebody is chasing them, both auditory and visual hallucinations. So it's very, very dangerous, and it really is. One time you could use it and that's it. That's why it's so important to stop these people from supplying the chemicals so that nobody would be tempted to put this on a product and sell it for a profit.
This is not something, these are not safe recreational drugs. Now, we have laws against the use of illegal narcotics, against the illegal use of pain medication, and things of that sort. I heard somebody say the other day that so-and-so was okay. He didn't use pills except on weekends for recreation. That's a crime. You can't do that. If you do that, you run a substantial risk of being caught. Fran, you talked about one of the big suppliers giving up their customer list. Now, their customer list was probably pharmacies and companies that redistribute.
Well, no, Nutrigenomics agreed to give up the list of people that were purchasing the chemicals over the internet, and those people were spraying it onto marijuana, creating the bath salts that are the real problem. So no, this was not the pharmacies. When I was speaking about the pharmacies, I'm speaking about the duty that the suppliers of the pills have under West Virginia law to monitor and control the amount of pain pills being provided to that pharmacy. I mean, red flags should have gone up. 300 people, how many pain pills would they need to sell at this pharmacy in Kermit?
Eating them like Wheaties or something.
22nd in the country for the number of pain pills that were being provided out of that pharmacy.
Okay. So Nutrigenomics gave up the list of people who were buying from them.
Over the internet.
And Purdue Pharma gave up the names of the pharmacies who were buying for them.
Purdue Pharma, it was related to illegal marketing in that they did not provide consumers with the correct information about how addictive the drug is.
We're talking about the OxyContin type drugs.
Yes, in fact, because of the lawsuit that we filed, and then it was followed by a lawsuit by the federal government, the manufacturer, Purdue Pharma, has actually changed, remanufactured, reinvented the drug to change it so that it is not as addictive as it was prior to the lawsuit. In fact, several officials, including their general counsel, pled guilty to criminal fraud in the marketing of OxyContin because they didn't tell people how highly addictive it was.
And now in West Virginia, if I get a prescription for one of these narcotic-type painkillers, that prescription is registered with the state of West Virginia.
Yes.
So the state can now monitor my personal usage of painkillers. They can monitor the pharmacy's sale of painkillers.
And the doctors that are prescribing them. This was an effort led by Governor Tomlin to create this pharmacy monitoring program so that we can get a handle on people that are using pain pills, doctors that might be over-prescribing them. And most doctors don't over-prescribe. Some doctors might not be as sensitive or educated to the protocol that's approved by the FDA. And we want to identify them to be able to educate them as to other alternative means to deal with chronic long-term pain. I know myself from personal experience. I have 2 artificial hips and suffer from arthritis. You cannot sign on to a lifetime or even long-term use of pain pills to deal with chronic pain. It doesn't work. You will become addicted. It will affect your job. It will affect your family life.
And the drugs become less effective as the longer you use them, so you use more of them. So don't go there in the first place. Use as little as you can to accomplish the purpose. Fran Hughes, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you also for joining us. On behalf of the Law Works, I'm Dan Ringer. Good evening.
If you would like to suggest a topic for a future The Law Works show, or if you're a school teacher and would like to receive a DVD of this show for classroom use, send us an email to thelawworks@comcast.net or visit us on Facebook. On the Law Works website at thelawworks.org, you'll find a listing of recent The Law Works programs, additional information about this show's topic, and video of this and recent shows. You can also find the Law Works programs on YouTube and iTunes. The Law Works is produced in cooperation with the Office of the West Virginia Attorney General, the West Virginia Bar Foundation, the Mountain State Bar, the Monongalia County Bar Association, and the West Virginia University College of Law.
The Law Works is made possible by major grants from the Office of West Virginia Attorney General Darrell McGraw and from Software Systems Incorporated, a West Virginia company established in 1975 which provides high-end support services, programming, and consulting for county government AS400 mid-range computer systems, as well as PC-based systems, and by a grant from the West Virginia Bar Foundation. The West Virginia Bar Foundation, the philanthropic organization for West Virginia's legal profession and justice system, promoting public knowledge of the law in West Virginia. Additional support for the Law Works is provided by the West Virginia Supreme Court of Appeals.
From West Virginia Public Broadcasting.